what your choices have been, and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed. The light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hi, and welcome everyone to Whole Soul Mastery's Live Well, Live Whole podcast series. I'm back again today with Ameera Beth, or you may know her as Ameera Atlantis. And we're going to be talking about many things today. A lot of it's going to be an invitation to courage and more of our faith and more tapping into our deeper wisdom and our multidimensional sight. We need multidimensional skills in a multidimensional toolbox. And what I'd like to do first, I want to welcome you, Ameera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. The world is going through some epic shifts. We're not talking about mild shifts anymore. People watching a podcast like this, it's very clear we see the fires and storms recently in Maui, and you are in Hawaii, right? You're in Kauai.
Hawaii, yes.
And there's the storms. You said there might have been an earthquake today in California, but they're expecting a hurricane, the first since 1938.
Right.
That's in that area. And when I've listened to some people talking about what I might call ascension weather, right? There are fires, storms in lots of places. I mean, some places are getting the news coverage, but there's fires and storms a lot of other places that aren't getting any airtime. And people who listen to my transmissions and my marinades messages that I post every couple of weeks, they know we've been talking about this quantum crumbling, that anything that, I'll use my language, that was serpent seeded. So anything at the core of the systems of our world, at the core of the structures of our world, if there are serpentine frequencies that were the cornerstones of the foundations, that must crumble for God's creation, for the higher dimensional realms to anchor, and for this to be the Eden it always was and was meant to be. And this return to this new earth consciousness, this fifth dimensional frequency and consciousness. So I thought, Ameera, I'm going to turn it over to you here in a second, but I thought just so people know where we're going to be journeying today is maybe the first part of our call is going to be talking about what is destructing, what is, destructive in our world right now. And then in the second part, what we're seeing in the reconstruction phase, the building phase, right? After more structures come down and more crumbles. So we are in this time of the great shaking and the great quaking. We're in this time of this ascension heat. And part of that heat in the spiritual battles playing out include fires and storms and all kinds of things. And maybe we'll just start there. So jump in. I know you're very close to the Maui events of this past week. Why don't you share what's in your heart to speak about that?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm on the island of Kauai, and the Hawaiian Islands are deeply interconnected. So when something happens on one island, it happens to all the islands, all the people of the island, because not only are the islands connected by a submergible mountain, but also by the spirit of aloha. That's how we're all connected. And I am not Hawaiian by birth. I have been on Kauai 7.5 years, and I've been blessed enough to call this land home. This land has fed, clothed, and housed me for 7.5 years. So while I am not Hawaiian by birth, my heart is here as a steward of the land and a feeling for the people and a respect for the people. So when I talk about Maui, I want to do so with great respect. I don't want to sound like, an entitled Howie who really knows and understands cultural trauma and the identity of the Hawaiian people. I can only speak from my experience and perspective, and for my great love of this land and for the spirit of the Hawaiian people. and speak to you like how absolutely horrific that event was, and how it has affected all of us throughout the Hawaii and really throughout the world, because people love Maui. Everybody loves Hawaii. And if you've been to Maui or been to Lahaina, like those are very special and significant places to people all over the world. So when this happened, it not only, traumatized Maui or the people of Hawaii, it was a worldwide trauma. It was an across the board, like the whole world went, no, not Maui. And I know that I felt the love and the sadness and the grief, and so much support has poured in from all around the world for the people on Maui. So much love, and where like FEMA has failed miserably for them, the Hawaiian people have really pulled together and created Kanaka Costco is kind of what it's been called, and support each other with supplies and shelter and water and emotional. And like, these are extremely community driven and Ohana driven people. And they have pulled together in that community, like just unbelievably, to make sure that they are caring for one another, while some of the supplies and the things and the money that people are sending are maybe not reaching them in the way that they were intended. FEMA is a corporation, and FEMA has their politics and their protocols, and in my opinion, they don't always think about what's the best for the greater good. Like, if it were me in charge, it'd be like, get the supplies to the people
now.
That's the thing that matters most. Help these people now. And instead of there's all this BS and all this red tape and all the things. So it's been very beautiful for me to witness, and I'm sure the people on Maui, to experience all this love and all this support and all this coming together of the world. But then, how do you, the people in Maui dealing with their own trauma and devastation and loss, like how do I then go and help the rest of the world who are witnessing not only this event, but all the fires and all the things that are happening worldwide? Because it's like you said, we're in the time of deconstruction, like the time we've been foretold that we've been waiting. It's here. The creative destruction is what I call it. Create, destroy, recreate. That's a cycle of God and life. Everything comes into form. Everything comes out of form, destroys. Everything recreates itself anew. So how do we then, as healers, go through and walk with people during the deconstruction time and help them to carry on, and help them to raise their vibration, and help them to come up out of their own grief and sorrow and really fear? Because I'll be honest, part of me felt like, the Hawaiian Islands, like Hawaii, we're in a little bit of a bubble from the rest of the world, right? We're like protected and in this great high vibrational bubble. And it was shown very clearly that that's not true. That
I
we are
think the
just as
Lemurians thought
vulnerable.
that. I think the Lemurians thought that they were in a bubble, and it's still a frequency there.
Yeah. We're just as vulnerable as any other place on the earth.
And we're seeing that. I think there's a number of components that I wanted to respond to that you just shared. Number one, I can't imagine being you and other people like you that weren't directly affected, but like you said, in all the ways of the energy of aloha and the mountain ranges
Right.
that connect the soul of that space on the planet. I imagine you fielded phone calls and emails and people checking in and wanting to know, because like you said, it was a global event. It was it was like in our own houses. It
was personal to everybody.
Akin to 9/11, when the world watched, everybody in their houses felt it, right? We're in this time where there's nothing separate from us either. The blessing of the hardest times is also the challenges of the hardest times, is that we are all connected, and separation isn't going to work here. Right. And we're going to have find ways. I'm going to use this word now because it's like simultaneous. That's a simultaneous destruction. Mm-hmm. And paving the way for the new birthing. It's both. And it's like people in their houses, on our devices, if we're not the ones in the trenches or the people directly affected, we're having to figure out, how do we experience that and ground in that and be of service to the
Yeah.
healing required? And also, how do we, this is another deeper question, but how do we help the people who may not see the bigger picture of a spiritual battle
Right.
going on the planet that's finally surfacing?